That's Delightful, a member of the Pod Bros Network.
Welcome to That's Delightful. Online at facebook.com/That's Delightful. Now time for That's Delightful.
That tea is a cider? Black coffee? Roast, dude.
No, there's some sweetener.
That's like floating on the top.
But she takes coffee from this morning, from like 4 o'clock this morning, and drinks it at 8 o'clock at night.
Yep.
Yeah, I still drink coffee at 5 o'clock that I had.
You're drinking an energy drink. You have no room to judge.
I want to.
But that energy drink was bottled and preserved until it was open. How long has that energy
What
drink
does
been
it
open
matter?
for? That's because coffee actually, there's a lot of bacteria that gets into coffee. That's like,
Really?
This is a fast food thing that I learned. Coffee is a huge attractant of bacteria. Like, it's so gross.
Well, I just microwaved the shit out of it.
So
Bacteria's dead.
I don't. It's the reason I'm going to survive the apocalypse. I drink all kinds of weird crap that has been sitting out. I also don't put my pizza in the fridge after I eat it.
that's why he rage baits. All right, here we
Good
go.
talk.
I'm a wonderfully pleasant person.
That's Delightful. Episode 59, 1 away from 60. We are, God, what, 3 away from getting our AARP card? Is it 62 where you get the AARP? They start buttering you up right around 35. Hey,
Right.
20 years, it's coming.
People confuse me for my dad, so I constantly get AARP card mailings.
Is that why you're getting those?
Yeah.
Could you walk into a Denny's and get a Grand Slam for a couple dollars cheaper?
I don't think they would believe me.
I think you get the card and then watch them try and ask you for your ID.
Yeah.
Hey, prove to me you're not in your 60s. You can't ask me that, dick.
They can't?
I don't think
Go
so.
point your hate raise at a Denny's waiter.
My hate raise?
Yeah.
What's a hate
Your opposite Care Bear stare where you gaze upon a thing and make it wither like a dead flower.
Do I do that?
You just did. Round Here's one of the best songs ever written, motherfuckers.
It isn't, though.
Oh my God. All right.
It's one of the first intros on a guitar that I learned how to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys, you gotta let go of the 90s, man. They're dead.
No, I don't.
They're dead.
I don't live
They
in the
didn't-
90s. I just
they
like a
didn't
song.
Produce much except for Tamagotchis.
Hey, all you people out there who think Michelle's the coolest person on the podcast, objectively, is it cool that she's just shitting on all the good stuff? Mm-hmm. Weigh in, America.
I can speak for them, yes. And what's more, I don't care.
You know, you've made some really good friends in doing this. I know that Yvette and you would be phenomenal friends if you guys hung out. Regina, Alejandra, Natalie. I know that all of you guys would be phenomenal friends if you hung out. But I just want to ask them right now. She's shitting all over our stuff.
Yeah. We didn't do anything mean to deserve this.
So, you guys frequently gang up on me. You triangulate.
And I think we're doing it now by telling you that you shit all over our stuff.
Yeah.
I know. Masculinity's so fragile.
No, I'm good. I still like the song. You didn't make me like it any less.
I'll use your trigger word.
Okay, go ahead.
Dude, pussy.
Is that your Marty
I do-
McFly word?
I
Is that
do
your
like
what are
pussy.
you, chicken?
It's a Marty McFly. Chicken.
I just teased him about it.
You ever want to get Kelly to do anything? Say, what are you, a pussy?
Yeah, don't be a pussy, Abbott.
It's like a dare.
It is. Okay, fine. I hate round here. Am I brave now?
You are.
Sorry, Adam. I'm sorry.
Hey, coming up, we're going to talk about vaccines. I posted something on my Facebook page that has like over 200 some odd comments now. We'll delve into that. The blue wave, according to the New York Times, is not going to happen. Before we get into any of that, Donald Trump pulled us out of the Iran nuclear deal.
Oh, good.
So, explain this for people that don't know? Because what I hear, because I'm not in the know like you guys are, but what I hear is it was the worst deal in history. We gave up billions, but when I did a little bit of reading, we gave back billions is what I was to understand, or $1.5 billion. And that the rest of the world that's all a part of this is saying, this is a really stupid move. Please don't do this. Iran, and this is to limit Iran's nuclear capability. They're against us doing this as well. So break this down. What was the deal? What does it mean to say that we're out of it now? what happens next?
The rest of the world keeps on playing nice with each other, and we're the assholes over in the corner congratulating ourselves for withdrawing from yet another worldwide treaty.
So what exactly was the treaty?
Well, it's an imperfect agreement. I mean, it was an Obama-era arrangement that some say didn't go far enough, and that's a valid criticism. But if you ask Trump to articulate why he pulled out of this, his answer would be, because I have to take apart Obama's presidency.
It really is. It's all just a matter of dismantling Obama's presidency. That's what he wants to accomplish. And I don't even know that it's necessarily out of spite so much anymore as it is out of he has no actual policies.
The treaty here then was to stop Iran from producing nuclear weapons, correct?
Right. Well, it curtailed their program.
Yeah,
it didn't completely dismantle it. But Iran has abided by the terms that they agreed to. It's not as though they've been not playing fair. They've been doing what they said they would do. We had, as recently as was it last week, the president of France showed up and was begging Trump to play nice, was kissing Trump's ass and patting him on the back and telling him what a good dude he was, and saying, "Hey, you're not going to withdraw from the Iran deal, are you?" And Trump did it. So in the meantime, he's sitting here asking for a Nobel Prize for his efforts to negotiate with North Korea. But what's it going to look like to North Korea that the last people we made a nuclear treaty with, he reneged on the deal?
Fuck you.
Yeah.
So, and then it's my understanding too, he made a huge deal over the fact that like over $1.5 billion was given to Iran. It's my understanding that $1.5 billion was money that the U.S. seized during the Iran hostage situation back, I believe, in the 80s. And
The Iran-Contra.
And a court basically ruled against us and said, no, that's money you have to give back. And they entered into this agreement with us, the deal with the rest of the world, the Iran deal, the Iran nuclear deal, if they got their billion and some odd dollars back. And so Obama gave them their money back and said, okay, if you're going to be a part of it, here's the money that was frozen and seized from you decades ago.
So it looks like what really happened was Iran agreed to decrease their uranium production and also reduce the centrifuges. So it was essentially so they couldn't build nuclear weapons, and they also agreed to dismantle their medium range stockpile. And in return, they received relief from the U.S. and the European Union. And it's not something that we don't do regularly anyway. So, right. I mean, we have access to their stockpile. That's part of the deal, is that we are supposed to be allowed to go in and monitor. And they've been very, they, like you said, have abided by these regulations. Now,
that's with the caveat that there's a 30-day notice before they go in and look, which is something that I know irked Trump.
So what?
So, well, I think that the thought process there is you're giving a country 30 days notice to say, hey, we're going to come and check to see if you're enriching uranium. And that gives them 30 days to be like, quick, put it under the bed.
You think we're not watching them from space?
And that was kind of my thing when I heard that. Like, the drones are watching. We know what they're doing. If a convoy of trucks left with stuff, they'd be like, hey, what was that convoy of trucks? We want to go there.
We were able to find weapons of mass destruction in Iraq where there weren't any. From space. Right. They want to find something, they're going to find it. But there hasn't been any whiff of controversy there. This is just Trump being Trump. And the more people begged him not to do it, you could just see his face getting more and more resolved that he was going to do it. And sure enough, he showed us.
And the people who are cheering this on and the people who are excited about it, they actually don't fucking know what it is. They just know that, Middle Easterners are, somebody to fear or hate.
Right, everyone's a potential terrorist. If you see something, say something.
Right.
Better over there than over here.
There's a lot of stuff that the United States has done to Iran. There's a lot of stuff that, that goes on there. There was a lot of persecution of the Assyrians. And that's why, like, in the Central Valley, there's a huge network of Assyrian immigrants. They're Christians from Iran. So it wasn't cool to be Christian there. And instead of like, oh, hey, we could support these people, provide relief, and, hopefully help to build their country and resolve the bridges, they have opted instead to pull out.
Something I never learned how to do, which is why I have 2 kids.
I was going to say, which is something that his dad should have done.
Some days it feels like it. Some
Nice
days
little
it feels like
softball
it.
down the middle of the plate there.
Does this destabilize the Middle East?
Yeah, of course it does. It can only do that.
Okay. And this also will increase the price of gas, I'm assuming, because we will no longer be using Iranian oil. The price of oil will go up, yes?
We
supposed to skyrocket.
usually also get the oil from Saudi Arabia, too. So
Saudi Arabia.
the UAE.
So we can expect an increase in gas prices? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. And this is good for America how?
Well, because Trump is being Trump, and he's making America great again, you see.
When you stoke the flames of hate, you can do a lot of shit. And that's what he's learned to do, is he just plays on people's emotions.
Here's the thing, though. He's got this playbook that's got one play in it. He just sows chaos. He says one thing, then says something that contradicts, says wait and see what happens. And while everyone's scratching their head trying to figure out what it is he's going to do, he does something that throws the whole world for a loop. And everyone's like, oh, my gosh. And he's actually had a little bit of success with that, where him kind of taking advantage of all that chaos has worked for him. But the thing is, I was thinking about it. It's kind of like every once in a while you'll see that in baseball. You get a pitcher who comes in who's got like a crazy delivery. He sidearms it and kind of scrapes his hand on the ground. Or
the dude from the A's, like the Moneyball guy. I forget his name, but yeah.
You get a knuckleballer coming in. They have one brilliant season usually where everybody's trying to figure him out. And then guess what? Everybody figures him out and then they rake him and he's back to the minors.
In baseball, they call that having the book written on you once they write the book on you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what's going to happen with Trump. Everybody's kind of like watching him do this, and at this point, everybody's got the measure of him. And you saw it with this. He pulled out of the deal, and everybody else was just like, cool, we're going to keep doing it. Hope everybody noticed America's the asshole. We're going to keep working with you.
We're losing so much credibility with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Except for Putin.
Well, his PBS puppet show continues, starring a puppet named Trump.
Exactly. It's so demoralizing. We spin our wheels because I see a lot of people getting into Facebook arguments and trying to discuss this with people. There is no discussion of it anymore. There really isn't. If they voted for Trump, there is not a fucking thing we're going to do.
They're dug in. They are dug in.
They're done. So, I mean, we try to rationalize. It's like, we'll get into this a little bit later, but trying to rationalize with the anti-vaxxers. At this point, people are so convinced of their beliefs that they will create facts and just ride that shit to the grave. They're done for. I have no faith that these people will ever turn. So Trump's voters will continue to vote for Trump. We need to figure out a way to increase the voting in the other parts of the country.
We need some sort of a blue wave to sweep the midterm elections.
Hey, speaking of the blue wave, according to the New York Times, the blue wave that we were all hoping and praying for in November 2018, according to the New York Times, will not be happening. Michelle,
no,
why?
Says it's unlikely to happen. There's in the districts that can be flipped, like in the districts that the seats are vacant or up for re-election, 18 of them are leaning Democrat, 52 of them lean Republican. So I just don't see the likelihood, unless they do a lot of work and get out a whole bunch of Democrats to vote, we're not going to take back the House.
Yeah, we are.
I really hope so. But in our own district, and this pisses me off to no end, in our own district, we have, so the California rules for the primaries are the two candidates with the most votes advance to the general election. So
it's for congressional.
Well, House. So it's
okay.
our representative. So at this point, like when a while back there was only one Republican and he was the incumbent. So 6 Democrats joined the race. And now there's a second Republican in the running. Our constituency went to Jeff Denham, the Republican, 2 years ago, but it was by a very small margin. It's increasing every year. However, if you split Denham's margin between 2 candidates and the Democratic margin between 6, you're going to get 2 Republicans advancing. And the only hope we have is that the other one is not a Trump supporter and he wins. But I don't see the likelihood of that happening. So my take on this is there are 2 people who've consistently ran in the past few elections, Michael Eggman and Michael Barkley. Eggman is the one with the highest likelihood of winning. But the other 4 or 3, I think it's one dropped out. The other 3, I feel like it's an ego issue. I feel like people thought that this is their opportunity, this is their chance. And you've had grassroots organizations begging candidates to drop out, and they just won't. And it's sad because if you gave a shit about the electorate, you would vote amongst you who is the best candidate or the most likely to win, and you would back the fuck out.
It would take a lot of insight and humility to sit back and say, I don't have a snowball's chance in hell at winning this, so I'd better back it, because everybody thinks they have the best ideas. And some people with the purest of hearts think that they're going to make the biggest change. And a lot of times they're like the least likely to win. But it takes a lot to sit back and say, the right thing is to fight for what I believe in. But in this instance, the right thing is to stop fighting for what I believe in and start fighting realistically. And that's got to be hard for any candidate to do.
Honestly, like, I've read the platforms of a lot of them. I don't know what their issues are because they're vague. I know one of them last year ran for a different position at the state level, and now all of a sudden you want to go Congress. At that point, I really genuinely think you just want to be involved.
You just want to have your name on a ballot and say people voted for me.
And it irks me. It irks me to no end. And it's...
Well, I think we're making a lot of assumptions, and there's still several weeks before, or a few weeks before the primaries. And I personally know one of the people running and can tell you that she's not running for ego. She's a genuinely good person who wants to help, and she may decide to pull out. Do we have polls that say that it's Michael
Eggman?
Yes. Who is in the lead in the polls?
No. Otherwise, I would throw my weight behind that.
Sure, but I just don't think we can assume that...
No, but I mean, statistically speaking, people go with names they recognize. That's been shown. And he's been the one that's run the most. I mean, the other candidate that's pretty well known is Virginia Modueno. Michael Barkley is not. I like him, honestly, because he door knocks. He walks personally to doors. Mm-hmm. And talks to people. And I think that's cool.
I just think it's a more complicated conversation than that. And I agree. The math of it is daunting, and there may be people who are in it for ego or to cross something off their bucket list, but the story's not over yet. And, we can't assume people's motivations by just looking at names on a list. So we'll see how it plays out. And if all 6 of them or 5 of them stay in and split the vote 5 ways, then we can scream at all of them. That'll be very frustrating. I agree.
They are going to stay in. Because even at this point, their name will show up on the ballot. So...
Yeah. Democracy, what can I tell you? Why are you looking at me like that?
Well,
you're shitting on a candidate that I've already identified as somebody I strongly support.
Which candidate?
Suze Wallen. I grew up playing in her house. She's one of them.
Were a couple people that I'm thinking of, and she wasn't one of them.
Fine.
But
You said 2 people and said the rest of them are in it for ego.
Do we need to have a sit in the feelings corner?
She shit on my favorite song, and then she shit on the lady that used to give me popsicles after kindergarten.
Do we need to sit in the feelings court and talk about our feelings right now?
No. I mean, to me, if you're not able to get together, and I'm not even saying that it should be Eggman, but if you're not willing to get together with people and determine the best of you to go forth to get the votes, then there's ego in that. There's this belief that you're going to win and you're not, because you're splitting a small vote between 6 people rather than...
Well, then I think what you do is you look at the polls, and we don't have polls in front of us, and whoever is in the lead, I think should have a right to say, you should, even if your name's on the ballot, you should tell your supporters to show some unity and throw your support behind me. So anyway, I've been saying for a while that Democrats are going to find a way to choke, but it ain't going to be like this. It's not just going to be sheer numbers. They'll fuck it up in some active way. In fact, hearing the New York Times say that it's not happening is the first time that I actually think, hey, maybe we stand a chance, because liberals are nothing if not contrarians.
I see that more as a warning than anything else. Like, hey,
a rally cry.
You don't get the vote out. This is the most likely to happen. So
we need Jay-Z to let people know to rock the vote.
Yes, maybe we can get Joss Whedon to make some more campaign commercials.
Don't know who that is.
Joss Whedon?
Yeah.
Buffy
he
the
made
Vampire
a bunch
Slayer.
of commercials during the 2016 election.
Good for him. For
with
who?
Famous people. It was all movie stars. Nothing fires up conservatives like a bunch of movie stars coming on and telling you who to vote for.
You know what bothers me is when people are like, hey, stick to making movies. Don't have opinions about politics. Well, whether or not they're a movie star, they're also a citizen and a registered voter.
And then they trot out Ted Nugent.
By the way, here's Ted Nugent with a crossbow.
I think it's funny because it's like that's the only reason you're bitter is because you get
We just have
shit
cooler
people,
famous people.
like Ted Nugent and Kid Rock.
And Scott Baio.
Right. And
Trump's defense team, headed up by blah, blah, blah. I read his blog, the blah, 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 blah blog.
But you know, we get the cooler people. We get the Justin Timberlakes.
Yes.
And
Your Justin's Timberlake and your Will's Ferrell.
And your Jimmy Kimmel.
Your Mark's Ruffalo.
But none of these are translating into votes.
Maybe they just haven't talked enough.
I think in the 2020 election, whoever gets involved or whoever the challenger is needs to have social media presence. I think that was one of Clinton's biggest mistakes.
Yeah.
Is that she had no social media presence aside from occasional tweets.
Oh, make no mistake, Barack Obama was the most social media savvy, like, hippest thing we've ever had in office. Trump's good on social media. Trump's good on Twitter. I'm sorry. I don't want to say social media. Trump's really good on Twitter.
And Trump's very well known. He had the Celebrity Apprentice and people.
And that's just it. Trump's not leading a country. He's playing to an audience.
I'm waiting because a lot of shit's happening with his company. Like the Trump brand, there are a lot of buildings in New York that have had to change their name because the tenants, like a court recently ruled that the building can change its name if enough tenants vote for it. So he's had a few happen already, and the values of his property have gone down. So it's affecting his business. People aren't wanting to be associated with that. They said, you know, the thing about the Trump buildings is usually they have really good like view. It's a really good area. People will live there, but they're also planning on voting to have the name changed.
But we're also going to name this Bob Tower. That's
right.
Bob Tower. Hey, interesting Trump tidbit, and then we can move on. But you know, he proposed to Melania at the Met Gala a decade and a half ago, however long ago that was. And the woman who puts on the Met Gala and sends out the invites on James Corden the other day, he said, "Who would you not invite back to the Met Gala?" She goes, "Donald Trump, not welcome back."
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
Donald Trump and the Met Gala, not going to happen.
I think it's hilarious that John McCain, who's planning his funeral, has disinvited Donald Trump.
Not even disinvited, just not invited, period.
And like Orrin Hatch is like, "Come on, McCain." And McCain's like, "Fuck off because I'm dying."
You got nothing on me.
Be the dick that goes against a dead guy's wishes. Be that dick.
Oh, he probably will just to, like, what are you going to do?
I think Trump will come out and say, "I wasn't going to go to a war pussy's funeral anyway." He's not a hero.
He likes the people that didn't get caught.
Or the weak-minded PTSD victims of the war. They're weak-minded.
All right, Facebook.com/That's Delightful, Patreon.com/That's Delightful as well. Hey, I put this up on my regular Facebook page, and it's still getting comments. It's got over 200 comments right now. It's a video on vaccines, and it basically says, "Anti-Vaxxers, listen up. Vaccines are not going to give your kids autism."
No.
Just so you know.
No.
And they go into a lot of detail. They cite a lot of sources. But what they basically do is talk about what you always talk about is Dr. Wakefield, when he came out with the study that said vaccines cause autism, how that's been debunked. And it goes into even further detail and sort of explores the money that was being exchanged.
Yeah. So there's a lot of money in the natural health magazine or the natural health industry. An investigative journalist, I want to say, when Andrew Wakefield published the paper. So when Andrew Wakefield published that paper, first they found that the research was conducted unethically because he was performing experiments on autistic children, and he kind of did data snooping. He was testing for a gut bacteria related to autism and then came up with this fucking wackamimi theory. And so they found that his data was unethical, and they stripped him of his license to ever do research again. 7, it might have been more now, but 7 of the 11 authors retracted their names, and the journal that published it retracted it. And the investigative journalist also found that Wakefield was suspected of receiving money from the natural health industry who didn't want vaccines.
Yeah, because Wakefield not only didn't retract his name from the paper, but he leaned into it and said, this is a thing and we're going to charge forward.
And he lost his license to practice medicine in the United States as well. That's really hard to do, especially on the basis of unethics. I mean, he did the whole vaxxed thing, and people are completely disregarding that his was the only paper that ever found that. When they've tried to redo the study, they've never been able to replicate it with the same results. There have been meta-analyses everywhere. Occasionally you will get a paper that says it's possible that vaccines cause autism, but usually they're in a pay-for-play journal, so you have to pay them to publish it, which makes it less credible. It's just interesting, but terrifying at the same time, because these people really hold on to this vaccine issue. And they start creating these logical fallacies of, well, if herd immunity works so well, then we should all just be naturally protected from those who do vaccinate. And that's not how that works. The nature of air travel now, there are countries who are literally dying because they don't have these vaccines. They would give anything for it. And the fucking privileged United States just treats it like it's a fad.
Vaccines were so 1987.
Right. It's like, oh no,
I guess
I
the
don't
enlightened
vaccine.
opinion to like we're all the idiots that are letting them stab us with needles.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who really understand.
And one of the
keep feeding to Big Pharma.
Right. And one of the arguments that, was given on Ian's page was, well, I mean, there are like 100 more vaccines than when I was growing up. I just don't see the necessity for that. It's like, okay, don't know if you have kids, but they don't poke your children 100 times. Most of the time they're in combination. And yay for the fact that we have 100 more diseases that we can vaccinate against. It's not that complicated. It really isn't. It's pretty matter of fact. And they're like, well, doctors get kickbacks. I work with doctors. I promise you they don't. Like, you might have a few unethical ones, but vaccines have been around forever. It's not a huge money-making industry. As a matter of fact, counties will give it away for free. It's a little ridiculous that it's considered this, and counties don't pay for shit. So
our county don't pay for shit.
No, literally, our county doesn't pay for shit. Medi-Cal is known for its poor Medi-Cal compliance.
I guess promising is if you filter through the comments that are on my page, a majority of the people, 90% of the people, and children and parents on there with children that are on the spectrum will say, A, spot on, thanks for sharing this, or B, I've got a child who has autism. I vaccinated him. I 100% don't think that my child has autism because he or she was vaccinated. So that's good to see.
Well, they're changing it to vaccine injury. People have seizures because of vaccine injury. And unfortunately, the U.S. government has reparations, basically, for people who've been diagnosed with vaccine injury. So it's almost like, we're taking accountability that vaccine injury is common, and it isn't. So you can have your child all of a sudden develop issues because of, diabetes or allergies to bee stings or peanuts. It's not a vaccine. It's a body's natural reaction.
I mean, there are just enough little mysteries here and there. Everybody knows somebody who got vaccinated and then got autism or got a disease. Heck, my mom got a vaccine and her kidneys failed 2 days later, and she was in the hospital for months. And that could have been related to the vaccine. Does not mean that vaccines cause autism.
No.
And she still gets the flu vaccine every year. It's just one of those things that I think there's just enough mystery there, just enough little question marks that you can seize upon, or that an opportunistic researcher can use to make a name for himself, that people who want answers to something, it's an easy one to latch onto. And enough people do it that there's this sort of shared mentality that they understand something that the rest of the world isn't willing to understand. And it's frustrating. It's
also extremely arrogant and fucking insulting. I mean, You see people with polio that are like, you're a total dick. You know, I mean, like, you're just a dick. And then there are other people who genuinely can't be vaccinated. You know, Ian's one of our friends, she's started talking about it, that she's got an immunodeficiency issue, so she can't be vaccinated. So if you're not, and you have the measles, it's easily passed on to her, who does believe in vaccines but can't. That's the whole point of everybody getting vaccinated. Don't be stupid. Just stop being stupid. You're stupid. You are. I'm sorry. It's mean, but you are.
Anti-Vaxxers, not everybody else.
You heard it here first on That's Delightful. Giving you a little bit of extra delight this week.
Hey, I got to ask you, does the energy feel a little low this week?
It feels like the world's sort of like teetering on the precipice just a little bit more.
I know I've had a down week, and I'm trying to rally, but I've kind of had a down week.
No, yeah, it's been a long week,
and I think you're a little work fatigued.
A lot
of work fatigued.
Yeah.
Michelle and I have been dealing with an unruly 8-year-old. So,
who wants to think that he's an adult and has some control over shit.
Wants to dictate the deals. The art of the deal. We need to get him Donald Trump's The Art of the Deal.
Ooh.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Would you go into battle with me on that one?
He's too smart for that.
He doesn't like Donald Trump.
He really doesn't.
He says mean things.
We need to inject some fun into this podcast.
Okay. Can we talk really quick then about the Melania Trump?
Her cyberbullying initiative?
It's not just cyberbullying. It's called Be Best.
What?
BEBEST. Be Best.
Be Best.
And it's not just the cyberbullying, it's children's issues, is what she says. There's not a whole lot of specific issues. It's just issues facing children.
Her press packet said that she made a whole packet about internet safety and stuff, and it was a repurposed pamphlet from the Obama era.
Well, then they came out and then they said, our mistake, we didn't mean she wrote this. We just mean she endorses this.
So she endorses Michelle Obama.
So from Michelle Obama's book, Sexting. Sending or forwarding sexually explicit photos, videos, or messaging from a mobile device is known as sexting. Tell your kids not to do it. In addition to risking their reputation and their friendships, they could be breaking the law if they create, forward, or even save this kind of message. Melania's book, Sexting, don't do it. That's the difference. Then she goes on to say, sending or forwarding sexual explicit photos, videos, or messages from a mobile device is known as sexting. Tell your kids not to do it. In addition to risking their reputation and their friendships, they could be breaking the law if they create, forward, or even save this kind of message.
So the issues highlighted are, as Ian was just talking about, social media, well-being.
I like well-being.
Right.
I like being well. That's
and
different.
Talking about opiate abuse, which is like, okay, but those things are kind of disjointed, like social media, opioid abuse, and well-being.
Let's inject a little bit of positive into this. Melania, when she decided to step forward and do the things she said she was going to do during the campaign, she was going to talk about cyberbullying, which is part of what she talked about here. She was actually kind of transparent, which was nice. She said in her press conference, I realize that there are people who will laugh because of the way that my husband carries on his Twitter page. It's not exactly what she said, but she sort of acknowledged that there are people who will call her out for hypocrisy. And she just said, you know what? I believe in this and I'm going to do it. So even though she didn't write it or
at
anything
all
like that, hats off to her for acknowledging the weird-haired elephant in the room, at least.
You know, I would have to say, in this White House, Melania is the one. Melania and Barron are like the two people in that White House that I can't really fault for anything. To me, it's just like a, come on, guys, just, put your head down, barrel through.
Totally.
Sorry this is happening to you. You seem like lovely people outside of this. Barron, I'm sure I played against you in PS4 games online at some point in time. You're that age. We may have even shit-talked in the microphone together. I don't even know. But I'm sorry you have to go through this.
Yeah.
All right, Facebook.com/That's Delightful. We're always looking for your comments there and your input there as well. Let's move into what we find delightful this week. Who wants to go first? I went first last week, just so you guys know.
Yeah.
And I went first the week before, I think, too.
You're a really good leader.
You're a really good leader.
What do you got for us, Michelle?
Why do I gotta go first?
So I can shit on whatever you say?
Oh, that's what it was gonna be. It's actually just a story that I think is fucking hilarious. So at a school in New Jersey, the football team kept finding feces
Oh, yeah.
What?
on the football field.
You have my attention, madam.
Every morning, they would walk out and there would be poop on the field. So the school resource officer
Where is this going?
the school resource officer decided to stake it out, try to find out what was going on. So he found that at 5:45 every morning, the superintendent of the school
Yes!
would go on the football field, drop trowel, and take a shit. And I just...
Did he ever say why?
It's poop
Did he
again.
ever say
I
why?
don't know. It's tempting to do it at work too. So maybe it was just a fuck you guys.
Maybe he was burned out with his job and looking for a way to express it in a material way.
No ideas, Kelly. So...
I'm sure I don't know what you're talking about.
So what I think is even better is I was telling somebody else that story, and my 6-year-old walked in, who's already obsessed with poo. He said, "What happened?" And I said, he said, "Who went poo?" And I said, "Somebody did something horrible and, pooped on a football field." And I always get scared telling him things. And he was like,
Could you see the wheels turning?
"Yes." And he goes, "Were his pants down?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And he was all, "Was his wiener hanging out?"
Oh, this has made my whole week. You guys are going to have to check every cupboard for weeks.
I know. I was like, "Well, I'm sure it was." And he goes, "Was everybody's wiener hanging out?" And I was like, this is like a whole new conversation. So let's stop talking about it. Then I was like, "Hey, what's happening on King Oddball?"
Oh
You
my
gotta
gosh.
divert their attention.
Which is the game we're playing together now.
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
I finally bonded with my 6-year-old. It's over a video game.
I downloaded that. I haven't played it yet, but it looks
King
cool.
Oddball?
Yeah, it looks awesome.
It's addictive. You'll go through it real quick.
Yeah.
It's addictive, yeah.
Man, oh man.
So this week, what I find delightful is Michelle's competitive nature, which she'll tell you she doesn't really have. She's not really a competitor. But we went bowling. Finally, somebody went fucking bowling with me.
Oh, that's fucked up.
And we went bowling. We took our 6-year-old. So Michelle, Jackson, and I are bowling. And I'm not a bad bowler. Once I hit my stride, once I get past my wrist injury, the first game I kind of stunk it up, but I still won. The second game, Michelle's bowling terribly. I mean, just not doing well. And she's getting more and more frustrated. And the better I do, the more fuck yous and middle fingers I get from her. And I realize my wife has a bit of a competitive streak in her that she won't tell anybody about. She may not admit it right now, but you were getting competitive. You were getting mad that you were losing to your son. You were getting mad that you were
I
losing
wasn't
to
mad
me.
that I was losing to my son. But
You were getting mad that you were losing to me. And then to top it all off, she didn't realize that a bowling alley was greased. The actual lane.
It's not that I didn't realize. I just wasn't paying attention.
Once you pass the line, and that's the whole thing with bowling. And if you ever talk to actual professional bowlers, they'll talk about their favorite lanes and the favorite way that the machine will come up and grease the lane and the angles and stuff like that. And she goes to throw, I don't know, we're third, fourth frame, and she goes past the line.
On accident.
And I mean, I'm telling you, feet in the air, ass on the ground.
I know. I did kind of the splits. Like one leg went bloop.
That is awesome.
And
It's happening. And like I felt like I was scrambling to stand up.
And if anybody looked over, they would have thought, wow, that husband's a real dick, because my go-to move was to start laughing hysterically, but only because she was laughing the whole way down and after it happened. If I had even noticed any bit of panic on her face, I would have ran to her assistance ASAP. But also that floor is really slippery and there's a lot of oil, and I don't want to get that oil on my shoes. So
it was.
she made it back up. And she bowled terribly and got pissed about it. And there's a competitive streak of Michelle that she'll deny to her grave, but you lie like a rug.
I have told people, I always tell people, I am not a competitive person by nature, but don't start and I won't be none. If you bring it, I will win, period. Except in bowling where I lost.
And also board
Terribly.
games of any kind.
That's because I don't care.
No, see, but that's also competitive where you're just like, oh, I win by not playing. Mwah. I win by shitting all over your stuff.
It's not competitive. It's boredom. It's like, okay.
Bored.
Yeah,
game.
you get to win by floating above it all. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Also, whenever we do go bowling, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but so I carry my own ball, and I also keep my own shoes.
Do you really?
And
Yes, he does.
I'm wearing the same shoes that I got when I was 16 years old at Kmart. And it's the same ball that I got when I was 16 years old at Kmart. And
At Gaymart?
Kmart, sorry.
It's a
And-
whole new thing
know that's it
on
there.
Grinder. Meet me on Grinder.
When I had the holes drilled,
At Gaymart?
for an extra $2, they engraved stud.
Chef?
They engraved stud against my 2 holes.
This is my new favorite conversation. Superintendent shitting on the football field is now in second place
No.
to Ian's ball
And 2 holes.
and 2 holes.
All right, Kelly.
Your turn.
I can't follow it up. I can't top either of those. Okay, well, quick follow-up, delightful. For reals, guys, Barry, it just gets better and better. I know it's a bit of an uphill climb the first few episodes, but you get to the top of the hill by second or third episode, and then it's a straight shot. It's awesome. There's 1 episode left, and I am on the edge of my damn seat.
Did they only do an 8-episode run?
Yeah.
For the
and
first
it's
season? Okay.
I love an 8-episode season. You get in, you get out, tell a tight story, none of that filler.
Yeah, but then you have to wait 46 weeks or 44 weeks for another episode to come out.
Yeah, but it's better than overstaying your welcome. And for Barry, it's the perfect amount. I think it's just a really good show. But that's a double dip. I said that last week. What I'm going to say for my delightful... No, sorry, you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to say, to piggyback off that, you also put Silicon Valley in there last week.
Oh, man.
And-
well, I'm an episode behind on that.
You're an episode... Were you raising your hand to say something? Oh, you're just stretching? Okay. You're an episode behind on that?
Yeah.
Okay, they only do... What do they do? 8, 10
They do
episodes?
10, I think.
Do you wish they would do more?
I mean, I could watch that show every day.
I love that show. The problem with that show is every single episode, they leave me with more anxiety than any horror film I've ever seen.
Yeah.
With how are they gonna fuck Richard this week? And as soon as it ends, I'm like I can't breathe. I can't go to bed
Yeah.
because I just feel bad for Richard.
They always end with a really great song that just kind of like lets you stew in whatever anxiety
Right.
you're feeling.
Right.
It's great.
Okay.
But my delightful, I gotta say, I showed you guys this video, but Childish Gambino released his video,
Yes.
This is America, after his stint on SNL this week. And I watched it the first time, and if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. It's a little bit shocking the first time you watch it, and then you watch it again to see if it's all it was. Was it just the shock value? Is there anything there after that fades out? I've watched it 5 or 6 times now. I've had the song in my head all week. There are some images in there that are really just striking. I think it's pretty amazing. I just really like it.
Did you see the dig that he took at Sacramento?
No,
The Sacramento Police Department,
Oh, yeah.
Stephon Clark. So if you ever watched the footage, if anybody's not familiar with Stephon Clark, in Sacramento, he is the African-American man who a couple of months ago was shot in his backyard. I think something like 21 shots fired at him. 20 shots. They thought he had a gun. It was his cell phone. They had aerial footage of this guy. And from the first call that they got on him, they said, there's a man breaking windows. He has a tool in his hand. And then when they found him in the backyard and they shot him, he had his iPhone,
Right.
which a cell phone can also be called a celly. And This is America, he says, this is a tool, this is a celly. Basically saying, this is a hammer, this is a cell phone, don't fucking shoot me.
Yeah.
He was taking a dig at the Sacramento Police Department.
It's really amazing. The video is him. I mean, I don't want to, lessen the impact by describing what happens in it, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the foreground. There's a lot of him sort of recreating popular dances and different kind of pop culture dance phenomenons and things like that, while things are going on in the background that are fuzzy, that are hard to make out. There's just a lot of really striking imagery. I really like it a lot. And Donald Glover is he's killing it on all cylinders right now.
Oh, he really is.
I mean, he was Troy on Community. Like, he was this lovable, funny, goofy guy. He was a writer for 30 Rock. I've talked about him on the podcast before. And he's going to play Lando Calrissian in Star Wars in a week or two. He's in Atlanta, which is unlike any other show on TV. And then he can do a goofy stint on SNL the same night he releases this video. I mean, there's really nobody like him working right now.
I thought it was funny when he was on stage in the SNL opening. He was like, he said, for the people who don't know me, I was in Community and the Star Wars movie Solo. He said, and for the black folk, I'm in Atlanta and Childish Gambino.
No, he really is killing it. I did not see this. I didn't see this coming because you know why? What was the Matt Damon movie, The Martian?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was in that.
That's right, he was.
I thought he did really shitty in that movie.
I liked it.
Wasn't.
I liked it.
That was like he played the role of like the eccentric, brilliant. Like, what if we slingshot around? Which is not a new concept in movies. They've done that before. But the way he did it, that was like the least favorite thing I've ever seen him do. So between Community and that, I didn't see this happening for Donald Glover. At least not to this level. Certainly not having this much impact on a cultural level.
Yeah, just having so much on his mind and so much to say. It's really awesome to watch him doing it.
So, probably a stupid question. Is he Danny Glover's kid?
He is not.
Well, there goes my theory.
What, that he came from Glover roots and this was just in his destiny?
Yes.
If the Glover does not fit, you must acquit.
Hey.
Like Jaden Smith.
What about Jaden Smith?
He came from a lineage of
actors, and he did Karate Kid, and I think that's about it, right?
No, he was in that shitty sci-fi movie with his dad where they crash landed.
So he did Karate Kid, and that was about it, right?
Heyo. That was an M. Night Shyamalan joint.
All right, Facebook.com/That's Delightful. Again on Twitter @DelightfulCast. Until next week.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to That's Delightful. Online at TotallyDelightfulStuff.com, Facebook.com/That's Delightful, and on Twitter @That's Delightful1.